Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 7 of AI Chatter on Archetypical. Today we discuss is AI elevating talent or amplifying flaws, as well as take a look at the new Rabbit 1. So let's chat AI. Hey Ken, hey Marty, welcome Candice. As you can all see and even hear here, we have the privilege of having a special guest with us this week, Candice Sutterfield. So thanks for joining us, Candice.
Thanks for having me.
So last week I introduced you guys with my new AI generated intros, and I want to keep that going, but I have some special guests to help us with actually them as well. So first one, we're going to start off with Mr. Ken Sanford's intro here.
Yo, check it. We got Ken Sanford up in this podcast. Straight up chilling like a true data wizard. You dig? Ken's got that PhD magic. Surfing through data waves smoother than Snoop gliding on beats. From mixing it up with big dogs like Disney to Boeing. My man Ken's been laying down those analytics tracks with Datacle, making numbers sing. Whether he's dropping knowledge with SCS or Alteryx, Ken's got the game on lock. So, kick back as we roll through this episode, where Ken's gonna break it down, Snoop style, showing us how he turns AI talk into gold records in the biz world. Ain't nobody do it like Ken, the data mastermind, keeping it lit in the ever-changing sands of the digital domain.
Thank you, Snoop. I appreciate it. Next, we'll do Mr. Marty here. Here we go. Marty, your intro.
Buckle up, everyone. On today's episode, we've got the legend Marty Gaup, who's navigated the skies of the U.S. Air Force and now charts the course of data science at Archetype Consulting. Imagine Marty armed with the precision of a veteran and the strategy of a mastermind, plotting data victories with the same excitement as unwrapping a Mr. Beast chocolate bar. From leading data squads to pioneering digital frontiers, Marty's journey is like cracking the golden ticket in analytics. So get ready for a ride that's as thrilling as a Mr. Beast giveaway, blending intellect with the sweet taste of success. It's going to be epic.
Thank you, Mr. Beast. I wanted to know, Marty, do you even know who Mr. Beast is?
I do not.
Oh, I knew it! Oh, he's a famous YouTuber. And then we'll close it out here with the last intro for Candice.
Folks, today we have the privilege of welcoming Candice Sutterfield to our conversation, a person whose story resonates with the values of leadership and change we hold dear. Candice, hailing from the world of data science at Archetype Consulting, brings over 2 decades of experience in transforming complex data into actionable insights, a journey that echoes the spirit of hope and progress. Just like we've always believed in the power of unity and innovation to lead us forward, Candice stands as a beacon of expertise in navigating the seas of business analytics and strategic initiatives. Her dedication to mentorship and driving positive change is a testament to the belief that together we can overcome the challenges before us. So let's dive in and learn from Candice's remarkable journey, an embodiment of the change we wish to see in our world.
Thank you, Mr. President. So yeah, wow. I did
that. I'm honored, nice. Humbled.
I took NAI to another level with the Speechify app that they have out there, so it was fun. It's fun. I was impressed how good it does for some of the voices. Like it's impressive. Well, next and in this episode overall, I want to introduce a new weekly feature called just the meme of the week. So every Monday in general at Archetype, we're going to share a more humorous meme related to data, business, and analytics on all of our social media platforms. But the exciting part is I want us to be like that exclusive first look of the meme right here before it goes live elsewhere. And we can even dive into it a little bit and discuss it. And I'm eager to hear kind of some of our listeners and what watchers' thoughts and interpretations. So don't hesitate to share your take on it as well. But let's get started in presenting our first ever meme of the week. So I'll read this once for everybody listening as well, but it has on one side a gentleman looking at his computer screen saying, AI turns this single bullet point into a long email I can pretend I wrote. And on the other side has the person reading the email saying, AI makes a single bullet point out of this long email I can pretend I read. So what's kind
For
of,
sure.
I'm curious on your guys' take. I personally love this one because I'm pretty sure I did this last week of taking a huge email that I had and was like, summarize this for me so I could get to the point of it. What's your guys' take on this? And does this point to any kind of overall concerns of kind of the use of AI somewhat?
Well, it's like translation, you know, it's taking something, translating it, and then you translate it back, and do you still have the same meaning? You
Mm,
know, it's and a lot of times you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the second part is what we've been doing for a long time. That is data analysis, right? The first part is what we're adding in.
yeah.
And I'm not sure there's a lot of value in that.
N-
But
No, especially in this scenario, it's like both users realistically just want a bullet point.
Yes. It's so interesting about just substance, right? Like, does AI truly add value and substance to what has already been there? Is it just a bunch of fluff? And then on the back end, do we want to read a bunch of fluff? Just get to the point of it. So
Yeah.
it's
No,
fascinating on both ends.
I thought this also kind of somewhat hits upon our first topic that we're going to go into actually, and being the blog posts that we have published by our very own Candice Sutterfield, titled the multiplication power of AI in the workforce: elevating talent or amplifying flaws. So we'll share that link in the description below as well as in our social channels. But let's discuss this a tiny bit. And Candice, why don't we have you start a little bit of what was the catalyst for you behind kind of this blog?
Sure. So I want to give a little anecdote. I got my husband's permission to use him as my case study, but I have seen this in our workforce, like as we're working with clients and going through projects. But my husband, very smart gentleman, has a background in math and engineering, but probably only took one, I think he took one Fortran class in undergrad a lifetime ago. He's not a programmer, right? So he got interested recently in writing a chat bot for trading, right? So he gets on Chat GPT and he starts to write some code. So it's great to have a starting point. It really lowered that barrier of entry for him to start like writing and interacting with a program. But he quickly hit a wall. The code was buggy. It wasn't quite doing what he wanted it to do. And then you start to try to get in and have to fix that code. And we're seeing a lot of the same stuff with our like junior programmers that are, coming up to speed, and they're relying heavily on this chat GPT to help them code and get through. And it's a fantastic tool as a starter, just as, Mitchell, if you're going to write a marketing piece, you can start with Chat GPT and get a foundation, but you probably want to check through it a little bit, right? So that led us to start thinking about, well, where does AI fit into our workforce, and how do we leverage it properly for newcomers and for seasoned veterans that are using it for development purposes?
Yeah, oh, exactly. And I'm curious from Marty and Ken, your standpoint, how does like the integration of AI in the workforce, do you see kind of change the dynamic of not only talent acquisition, but also even just talent development?
I mean, it's a tool, just like a calculator was a tool to us in the 50s and 60s when we were trying to do more more deeper math. If you become over reliant on the tool and you don't know if the answers it's giving you are truthful or not, then the tool can trick you. And ChatGPT is the same way. It's a tool. I've used it frequently for coding and had the exact same experience that Candice just described. It gives me some code that looks really good. I plug it in. It may even run, but the results don't make sense. Now, I know that because I've got a decent amount of experience. I can see when it doesn't make sense. But someone else may get results out of it and go, oh, there's my answer. 2 plus 2 does equal 5. Look at that. Mrs. Klein was wrong in second grade. She didn't teach me properly. And that's where this kind of fundamental or first principles knowledge comes in so importantly, that you're going to learn in school. You're going to learn, maybe you don't have to be in a formal school, but you're going to learn by doing it and struggling through some of the basics.
Yeah. What about you, Ken?
Writing a loop teaches you, it teaches you the right steps, but it also unlocks ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the unlocking of the idea is like part of the creative process. And if you don't understand, the machine will write a loop if you ask it to write a loop, but it will not it will just sequentially, if you say do this and then do this and then do this, it'll just create a bunch of lines of code, very procedural, but it will never say, okay, this should have been in a loop after the fact. Like it won't know that. And I'm not sure how. I mean, maybe in some future state it could, but I remember some of my work in graduate school, econometric work that I did was fed by understanding how to make a machine do repetitive process. Like that informed the creative process. I think it's very dangerous to not have that step, right? Now, evaluating talent in a world of GPT, that's hard. Marty, your wife is a teacher, dealing with that problem all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's really hard to know if the person is just, did they really understand what they're doing, or did they get lucky and looked up the right thing? Ken's example about writing a loop. I am a big advocate of learning computer science, not learning a programming language. And yes, you need a language to understand, to work in the computer science, but computer science teaches you the logic and the structure of how programming works, not necessarily the syntax. Take Ken's loop example. Do you terminate the loop at the first step or at the very end? There's a difference because things can go differently. Do you even go into the loop? Because you may have a condition up front that precludes you from going into it, which you might want by design. There's all that. You'll learn that in computer science. You're not necessarily going to learn that in a Python programming class, because it's going to teach you the syntax and kind of expects you to know the logic behind it. So I've seen this in education, that there's a big rush to write code. I always told my students, no, go to a whiteboard or a piece of paper and map it out. What are you trying to do? Draw a picture. Literally. Back in the day, like my father was a programmer back in the old days when you had punch cards. You used flowchart and you learned how to flowchart, like formally flowchart. I don't necessarily advocate you have to learn all that, but that idea of, before you start writing code, think about what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that you miss that with ChatGPT, because you just say, hey, I need this, and it spits out code.
I agree. Like Marty, the analyst, the analysis of why am I doing what am I doing, and leads to the art of it as well. And I think that that's another piece that's missing, because you could potentially, if you want to write a loop that'll say 2 + 2 is 4, you could get the right answer multiple different ways. But there's sometimes a better solution, because you understand the broader either architecture of the other technologies that you're dealing with, that it's the art of the science that could be missing as well.
I like that, calling it an art. So what strategies can organizations adopt to ensure that their workforce is actually prepared to leverage AI effectively, and thus also like maximizing productivity while minimizing that risk?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, I think, number one, you need exposure to it. So there's a lot of companies that have completely shut down exposure to ChatGPT. They do it for security reasons. I think that's a mistake, because your people are going to find a way to do it anyway. I mean, you're kind of kidding yourself if they're not going to figure that out. But you can't close your eyes to it. You need to expose your folks to it, and then see where are its shortcomings, so that you can mitigate strategies around that. From a talent standpoint, I don't know. I really feel there's a lot to be said about the person-to-person interview, the asking them questions to get them to explain, what did you do? Why did you do it? Why did you make the decision you did? I always, again, when I was a professor, I always made my students defend their answers, not because they were wrong. I wanted to know why they were right and why they thought they were right. And sometimes I would give more credit to the student who gave a really good defense for a wrong answer than well, it's just because I followed the recipe and that I got the right answer. That's a horrible answer. But the student who actually had maybe one decision that was wrong, but a really good thought out process to get there, that's much more valuable to me. You can teach, you can correct that. You can't correct someone who's basically lazy and just does stuff.
Yeah. No, yeah. What about you, Ken?
You mentioned, how do you ensure that the right thinking is going on? This is similar to when we model and we advocate to write down a model on a piece of paper or board before you attempt to try to find data to support that model. And that keeps you from making a bunch of bad decisions. And so, stepping away, having pen and paper is important. In fact, I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about business etiquette the other day, and that, yes, it is inappropriate to be on your computer while taking notes in a meeting. Get a notebook. It was kind of old school, but I appreciate that. So get a notebook and write down what you're doing. And so these code challenges, which are now parts of most interviews, need to be rethought. It's not going to be as simple as write this code and give it back to me overnight. Now you could probably accomplish the same thing on a whiteboard or just in words.
Anything to add, Candice?
Yeah, I think we've had AI essentially in talent and recruiting for a long time, right? Reading resumes and highlighting the ones that the HR office or the hiring manager needs to look at, right? And I don't know that has necessarily improved our hires, right? I mean, I think that that's a fair question to ask across industries, across the board. Like, have you really been getting better candidates from the AI? Or do you get better candidates when you send people out to network or go to hiring career fairs or things like that? Because I think that human interaction and finding, like Marty was talking about, the person that has just innately wants to collaborate, wants to be open to ideas and feedback to improve themselves, and then an eagerness to just learn, especially in our industry and technology. The landscape is just changing so quickly. If you are not learning every single day, you are left behind. So, you just have to find somebody who maybe is not the most technically advanced, maybe not the most expert, but you can bring along those skills if you have somebody who kind of innately has those character traits of, really wanting to get in, collaborate, and learn and move forward. So it's
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, Candice. The intellectual curiosity and willingness to learn new things, and what you said about these resume readers. There's resume breakers out there too that will write you a resume with all the buzzwords and all the keywords and guarantee you the interview, which you will fail because you don't know anything that's on your resume. I mean, it's an arms race. That's what I think I've said this on a previous AI chatter. It's going to be an arms race. For everything AI does, someone will find a way to break it or hack it and combat it. And that's where, the human has to be in the loop. Who can call BS on this guy made up a language? I know Python, R, and T. what the hell is T? That's just the next letter, and the AI doesn't know any better, but it put it down.
That's
Well,
great.
it's
That's
totally the
exactly
meme at the beginning, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I did this one little thing, Chat GPT, make it sound like I'm an amazing person. And then we just need the HR on the back end to say, take this whole fluff paragraph and say, what did you actually do?
Exactly. I love it. So we're already a little over time here, but I did want to real quickly get your guys' take on the Rabbit One. So I'll bring my screen up here so you can at least see it as well. But looking at the Rabbit One, which I'll read what it is as well. It recently launched a device aimed to be more AI-focused alternative to smartphones. It boasts making the change from LLMs, so large language models, to LAMs, being large action models. Curious on your guys' take on it. It's meant to be this pocket-sized AI assistant focused on tasks, not apps. Has all these learning capabilities of like the way you interact with the apps. I watched the keynote and have my kind of opinions, but compared to traditional iPhones, what did you guys find most interesting about the Rabbit One's approach? Besides the price.
Honestly, it looks like a toy.
I was looking
It
at
really
the
looks like a child's toy that you would get for your kid who's too young to have a $1,500 iPhone. And I'm not trying to make fun of the form factor. It's an interesting thing that it's so small when everybody in at least the phone landscape is trying to make bigger screens, more resolution, bigger cameras, that kind of stuff. It's an interesting take that they're actually going against that. They're making something. I think the screen looks like it. I don't even know, maybe 3 inches tall. I mean, there's not a lot of real estate to do stuff on there.
what was the
It
name of
has
that toy that had the little pet on it? Because that's what it reminds me of.
Oh, I know what you're talking. Yeah, the digital
We have to
pets.
feed it.
the digital rock.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
rock. Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
I mean, it's got to be a privacy nightmare to even consider something like this because none of the computation is happening on the machine. It's all going to be in the cloud. So, I'm not one of those scared people, so I don't care. But I like the idea that we're moving into a world where these digital assistants give me more value. This won't be the tool that does it, but Apple or Google will be next, and they will have an answer to this.
Yeah. I definitely I just don't. That's my thing. I think it's going to become obsolete. That was my kind of view on it. Pretty quick once Apple creates Siri that can do these things on your phone already.
Well, yeah, because you're carrying another object around with you because it's not going to replace your phone. I'm sorry,
No,
it's not.
no.
So it's another thing you have to carry and potentially lose. And I wonder what Ken said about security. If I lose that thing, can someone spoof it? And now they have access to all of my stuff,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
they're getting Uber rides and flights and trips booked. All not for you. Uh, definitely not the route I want to go. So curious, would you guys use it? Last question. Would you guys use it?
Probably not. I
Yeah.
like my Samsung. I'm good with my
Oh,
my
right.
my phone.
Samsung guy.
Hey, Droid all the way. I'm with you, Marty.
Ken, please tell me if you have an
That's
iPhone.
why she's here. We finally we evened it.
Kindred Droid
Yes.
spirit, we are.
Eventually, Apple's going to get going on this AI world, and when they do, they'll solve this problem the right way. They're just Apple's not a nimble company. They're very institutional at this point, so they're going to wait.
They're at a point of they don't like to be the first ones. They like to be the best ones. Hopefully,
Yep.
we'll see. But awesome. I appreciate you guys coming on. Candice, thanks for joining us this week.
Of course.
And definitely take a look at her blog. I'll leave the link to the Rabbit One as well in the description. But tune in next week, everyone. We'll chat more.
Bye-bye.